Start recording. And we're live. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah. We'll do it live.
Feels good to be back.
We back.
We got to stretch real quick and then alright. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Wordness and the Nerdness podcast, a show where nerdy guys talk about games, movies, TV, and everything else in the nerdy universe today. You can currently find our podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and now YouTube with a new episode each and every Thursday. If you want to reach out to us with anything, you can follow us. Oh, Bernie. You can follow us at Worst of the Nerds on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, to my far left, I am joined by one Santa Claus himself, Sean Mahoney.
What up?
And then to my immediate left, I am joined by Running Man, Curtis Potter.
What's happening?
Man.
Iron Freak.
Usually we're all in here and we're like, you know what? We're just gonna have some fun, but I'm gonna get a little serious with you guys. Not to us here, but to the people listening. Definitely appreciate all you guys listening. I know some of you are like Josh. I see you out there listening. Mitch, Mark, I see you guys. Dub, I see you. I think Hades is out there. Another one to reach out to us. Some of the other regulars. That I'm not saying your name. I apologize, but. One of the things, with us doing this is we enjoy doing it, but we want to hear your guys' thoughts and your guys' criticism or likes of what we do. If you happen to watch us on YouTube, leave a comment, give us a like, show us some of that love. If you're on iTunes, slap that 5-star. Even if you don't have anything I said, we don't want anything below 5-star. Even if you want to come in I watch you guys on YouTube and it was the sorriest shit I have ever seen. You guys are trash. When God was making you guys, he dozed off and made a blurry blob that is your guys' faces. Leave the industry, get out.
That's fucked up.
5 stars.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
Even if you give us those 5 stars, I'm okay with it. Just give us those 5 stars.
Never listen again. 5 stars.
That's it.
I want a terrible description like that, or a review, and then at the end, but it wasn't that bad.
Loved it.
But then I found $5, so 5 cents.
Yeah.
Oh man. So
yeah, we do appreciate it.
We got a treat for you. Those of you watching everything, you probably already saw. We are going to be nerding out on making a video game today.
This one's real nerdy. I went a little too in depth there.
I was after the podcast last week. Sean was like, or not last week, but the week before. He's like, you know what? It's I like how you're going back to the roots, but you didn't go back to the first video game. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, have you ever played Civilization God? Because God did, and he made Civilization. And we got to go back to the dawn of man if we're going to talk about video games. And I was like, you got yourself a point there.
Right? That's how I do.
Oh,
I kind of like a little history background on stuff, It's nice to know where we came from, kind of put things in perspective.
It definitely is.
Oh, yeah.
But wait, before we go any further, though, I forgot. We're still missing Sam. Did we get an update? He was in Alaska, last we heard, holding polar bears hostage until something about microtransactions. Did we get an update on how's that going?
I heard he set fire to half of Alaska because he was so mad that they weren't including.
Yeah, it was because they were going to put those percentages in there, and it really pissed him off. That's
it must he was
very passionate. Well, it's almost to a fault.
To the
Sam, just come home.
To the shareholders out there, they're praising them. They give their prayers and support to make it so that loot boxes are more predatory, in the future than going backwards. So they're
more anonymous stats is what he wants.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. We'll keep fighting more fight, Sam.
Pride and accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
We're looking forward to his
hey,
his great
we're
return.
proud. we're proud he's doing something. That's
Exactly.
good on him.
At least he stands for something.
Right?
Not like us knobs out here.
It may be completely wrong, but he stands for something. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like Sam, like other great dictators out there, I'm not going to name names. Hitler, Stalin. They stood for something too. It wasn't necessarily right, but they stood for something. Sam, just keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Well,
go girl.
I'm looking forward to when you get back.
Yeah. Maybe he'll do his little write-up on Alaska or something.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, next week he'll be bringing us with the juicy details for the episode. Did you guys do anything fun this week though?
Not really.
I joined a gym. That's cool.
Hey, you're talking to us a little about that. You want to?
Yeah, I signed up for a kickboxing gym. It kicked my ass, and I like it. So
it's a workout.
Good. Yeah, it's 30 minutes of hell, but it's awesome. So I dig it.
Oh, so the classes are 30 minutes?
Yeah, it's like 9 rounds that last 3 minutes each.
Oh shit!
So basically, you just wait until the person in front of you is gone, and then you just go through the thing for 30 minutes, and you're done.
Okay.
Wow! Holy crap!
At ours, at Tidal, what they do is they do a 15-minute warm-up, which is usually like some running, some stretching, some other stuff. Then they do the 8 rounds, and then we do 15 minutes of core, doing like abs and stuff like that, which ends up being about an hour.
Mm.
So.
Damn,
yeah, I've been something with some running and little exercise bike stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're also feel it. Running nonstop, and Sean over here lifting all the weights.
I know.
Yeah, for real. See that's all I watch. I'm like, damn.
We have like a gym upstairs at work, so it's so easy to go at lunchtime. That's what I've been doing lately.
You lucky sons of guns. I wish it was that easy to I just got to go out in my warehouse and start like throwing 50-pound buckets of chemicals around. Like, here we go. Like,
yeah, dude. I work in like upstairs in the warehouse too. And we just like laid out a bunch of weights and stuff. It's sick.
That's cool.
It's funny, like when you do like deadlifts or something, it's like above the office, so it's just like everyone's eating lunch and it's like
Just so you guys are aware, I just got notification on my phone that there's flash flood warning in my area until 11:45 p.m. So if something happens while we're filming this, that's probably what it is.
You can see just the water sweep you away.
There he goes.
Also, I don't know how sensitive my mic is, but if you hear some like crunching in the background, you got Bernie back here chewing on one of these bones. So I decided to let him come in for this episode because he was crying outside the door, and his mom's not here, so gotta babysit.
Nice. That's good.
I'm talking too much, Sean.
No, you're good.
Sean, I hear you got something special for us today. Something that people have been asking for. Like I've been getting all these letters and notes from just the fans across the world.
Yeah. They're all dying to know. They want to hear me.
Like I hear Sean has something special for us. Like, what is it, Master Sean?
Yeah.
Master Sword Boss. What are you gonna bless us with today?
So I kind of wanted to get into what it takes to make a game, but there's just so much information and stuff to cover. So like I kind of went over the very, very like high overview of everything.
Right.
And even that was still 3 pages long, 4 pages long.
Well, I mean, from what I hear, it's usually pretty easy. Like they talk about all this crunch in the industry and how difficult it is, but I heard really all it is just a couple lines of code a day. Everyone kind of hangs out, eats pizza, drinks root beer, and then like 5 years later, they're like, "Oh, didn't we have a game?" Like, "Oh yeah."
Oh shit! Wait, let me.
Yeah, I mean they're only working like 10 hours a week or something.
2 more lines of code, done. It's gone gold. That's how it is, right?
Insert loot box here. That's the code you put in.
Yeah, I heard something like that.
I always found it like fascinating to like know where things kind of come from, and we kind of rip on a lot of the games that we play because they suck ass.
Yeah.
But when you understand the process, you can kind of see why doing this research and stuff, when I was like thinking of Anthem, I was like, oh my god, like this is exactly why Anthem fell apart.
Yeah.
So,
Ooh, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I figured as I like hit some points and like highlight some stuff, if you guys want to throw in like, oh, this game's a good example of that, that would be kind of cool, or like notable games that had standout art or music or that kind of stuff. So
right,
or if you want to jump in and break up the monotony a little bit.
I can do that.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just jump right in.
Jump right in, man. Let's let them know.
All right, word. All right, so since we were ancient humans, we've been playing games. There have been relics of games found dating back 5,000 years ago in like Mesopotamia. One of the games was called the Royal Game of Ur or Ur. I'm not sure exactly.
It was the first battle royale, right?
It's actually a direct ancestor of what we now know as backgammon. So
dang,
it's one of those like checkered board games kind of things. It was a 2-player strategy race board game, which was played on 2 rectangular sets of boxes with 2 sets of checker-like game pieces. It's pretty simple setup, nothing crazy. Obviously, for 5,000 years ago, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It could be ornately carved wood boxes, but what made it super popular was that you could just kind of draw a box in the dirt and play with rocks. So it kind of took on a huge following across all of Mesopotamia, from Iraq to Egypt. Like this game was all over the place, and it's kind of the first instance we have of a game being played.
So they dated back 5,000 years, but this was kind of like so this would be, there wasn't like a sequel. This was like the game for generations and generations of people.
Yeah, no, this is before like expansions and DLCs. It's just like all
DLC. Was there horse armor involved with this?
No, it was just Game of Ur 1 forever.
Okay.
Yeah, so what's crazy though is this game actually had instances of it being played all the way up till 1950. It was through like a special tribe of people that before they migrated to Israel, they actually were playing this in 1950. So pretty crazy that it's, what is that, 7,000 years old?
Yeah.
But anyway, what is it about games or games in general that keeps humans coming back? Well, we seem to have almost an infinite array of games now. And if you ask Sam, it's loot boxes. But
all the way.
The reason why I believe is it's fun. Fun is the heart of every single game ever created and ever will be created. It's the one ingredient that we can't substitute, we can't fake it, and it can't be forced by anyone or anything. So fast forwarding from our 5,000 years ago example, we'd be overwhelmed, and I am overwhelmed even today, about the amount of games that we have at our disposal. Just video games alone is crazy, but you have board games, sports, Olympics, you name it. There's just a crazy amount of stuff.
And it's true. I'm like, even the saturation of how much it is, and it still almost seems like it's not enough. I mean, even though we have, like, especially with things like Steam, we got Game Pass now, with PlayStation exclusive, all that stuff, we have like all these like just in the video game market, but then board games are still big and still selling well, and they're still making new board games. Like card games are big, arguably even bigger than it's been before. So like it just keeps growing and growing, and I think more and more people, like everyone plays a game in some way. Like there's, whether it's fantasy football or board games, card games, they're
or all of G2
Vegas,
playing
poker,
Candy Crush.
They all play some. Yeah, exactly.
We're all Candy Crushers. Come on.
Yeah, we're a Candy Crush group.
Yeah, we met in Nashville from playing Candy Crush against each other.
Yeah.
Words with Friends is what we did, and we're like, oh man, I got 26 friends. You guys
like, oh yeah,
in Nashville.
We're gamers. Just even looking at your Steam library right now would probably send you into a cold sweat because it's just crazy. Yeah. It's so overwhelming. It's crazy how much this industry has exploded. I mean, companies invest billions and billions of dollars every year into this. And it's an industry that's spurred friendships, rivalries, loves, hatreds, fanboys, angry Redditors, and even Group 2, like that we have now. It's a group of friends that have been playing for how long? 5, 6, 7 years together? It's crazy.
Yeah, for some of them. I mean, Sean, I met you 2014, so we're 5 years now.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild.
Damn.
It's just, and video games have that power, but for me, I think it comes from being able to have fun, like a shared experience with others too.
Mhm.
So that being said, I kind of wanted to make that point, and I gave like a little bit of backstory there just to highlight that that's the single focus of video games for me, is like to have fun. But if you've ever worked in a group project or anything like that, you know that it's difficult. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, there's always that troll guy that hits people with a sword and knocks them off the edge.
Well,
Weird.
See, that's fun.
it is true. Like you look at it from the outside looking in. Like when you're young, like maybe in high school, and you're playing a bunch of video games, like you might be thinking, "Man, I want to be a video game developer." But like when you're on the inside, it might not be, it won't be the fun or what you're expecting. I don't want to say that like going into the video game development industry is just bad, but it's not what probably 99% of the people out there think it is.
Right.
You know, you
Exactly.
might love
It's not like you're
Destiny.
sitting on the couch playing video games all day.
Well, it's like, don't go to the sausage factory and see how sausage is made. You know? It isn't what you think it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you love Destiny, that might be a game you love and you love to play it. But then, like, let's say you get a job with Bungie, you might be responsible for designing the grass in Destiny, and I'd be like, I want to do more than that, or maybe there's something else we can do. But that might be what you're good at, and that might be where you land. And that might be all you do for 5 years is make grass. So, yeah, there's a lot of avenues in making a game.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I guess it makes sense to start off at the conception of the idea of a game. So this phase is kind of known as pre-production. That's the term that's generally put on it for like project managers and stuff like that. So pre-production typically starts with inspiration. I mean, it's kind of hard not for anything to have inspiration as a start.
Right.
But this is kind of where someone just comes up with a new idea that they'll feel will be fun for a game to play, and then it's off to the drawing board kind of thing. So I know that there are times where we're playing and we're shooting the shit and we come up with like all these crazy cool ideas that we think would work out as a game, which, you know, we should have took those to the drawing board and actually started. But anyway, in larger companies, this usually comes from the lead designer, and you would hope so if you're paying for that. But this is often called the inspiration, obviously, and this is usually nothing more than an idea. But typically this idea is brought to the lead designer's team, and from there, a treatment document is produced and presented for the green light to be given to proceed with the project. So from there, it goes into the conceptualization stage, where it's typically like 3 months long, and this is where the complete design of a game is laid out. This is kind of like what you pictured the initial stages of the game to be like. It's a high-level outline of the game, where they define the core game concept as well as features, those kinds of things. It would be like, for instance, Halo. Okay, the core game concept is that you are like the last hope for humanity, and you have to fight against a covenant of aliens to save the world or the universe kind of thing. So that's what we're at with this.
One of the things I want to point out with this is like we were talking about earlier, like of things that can go wrong with it. So Sega, when like their staple Sonic the Hedgehog, when it first came out, you had two development studios. You had Sega of North America and Sega of Japan, and when they were both pitched what Sonic was, they're like, we like this. This is a really good idea. But then conceptually, they both came up with two very different looking hedgehogs. And the one that they ended up going with, which was the North America hedgehog of the Sonic that we know today, was a lot it looked meaner and was a lot edgier in Japan, and they at first were refusing to use the North American one because they're like, people wouldn't like that wouldn't sell well in America. But like there was waning sales in Japan where sales were doing really good in North America, and so it was just kind of like, all right, we got to follow what North America is doing. But yeah, there was two different development teams, and their thought, like, pitched the same pitch, came up with two very different looking hedgehogs.
Right. Right, exactly. And that's kind of goes to illustrate the fact that group projects, it comes down to different people's interpretation, so it definitely can go completely different directions.
Right.
So conceptualization, that's a tough one to say.
You know,
I don't want to go too far into it because obviously everyone understands it, but basically this is where the documentation is laid out for how the game is going to be acted upon and how it's going to be cut up into different pieces for the project to be completed and what it's going to look like at the end, hopefully. So typically who works on this is the designer, some prototype programmers, some prototype artists, just like high level stuff. They might do like a short panel or like a PowerPoint presentation kind of thing where in a short video or demo just to kind of do like a proof of concept kind of thing.
Just to reel it back just a little bit before we go much further. We're talking about like some like either big indie or AAA games out there, right?
Right.
Like, because indie developers, it could be one person, it could be a team of 16 or whatever, but you have to wear multiple hats a lot of times. But we're talking like studios with hundreds of developers.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly, which I kind of wanted to highlight the indie too. I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of this has a bunch of people from different teams, and a lot of the time indie developers is like 10, 30 people compared to hundreds and hundreds. So
or one sometimes. Like
exactly.
Like Stardew Valley. That's a good example.
Yeah, Minecraft or whatever. It was crazy. So inside of this, they kind of detail the mechanics of the game engine. Any technologies they're using, artistic and style guides, those kinds of things. So you get the idea. Basically, it can be summarized as high concept to like an elevator pitch, and then like a concept document to lay things out in like obviously a documented manner. Game design document, which is like the final, this is what it's going to be like, and then a prototype, which is usually a playable demo.
Okay. Nice.
So just the way things have been going lately, it used to be that you could have a little bit more leeway with a rough prototype or just like a proof of concept kind of thing where it's not a playable demo. But nowadays, a lot of the time, before you can even go to a publisher to have your idea even agreed upon to start, you have to have a playable demo. So it's kind of crazy how far it's come. Where you used to be able to like draw a comic, and now you have to have a whole playable demo. So
it's like a napkin with some scribbles. Like
exactly, that's what I make it.
Well, that's
like
exactly
I'm sure that's what Pac-Man was or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened with Anthem there because it's gonna slip my name of the CEO there. It's not Bobby Kotick, that's Activision. Anyway, when they brought it up, the team was like on very different ends of what they wanted the game to be, because I think we talked about this in previous podcasts. But at first, the game was supposed to be a survival style game where you'd go out into the wilds and try and get all these resources and stuff, and like get back to the base maybe. But then it branched out to a bunch of different stuff to where like they weren't liking it. But then when they added flying into the game, where I guess it wasn't supposed to be flying all the time originally, the CEO was like, "This is amazing. Let's go with this." And the team was not ready. Like the AI was already put in place to not react to guys flying around them. So it was
exactly like just even something like that. It's like a fundamental change that changes everything about the game. So you can see how just even from the conceptual stage, like it can change all of the work that's being done for the entire game.
Yeah.
So let's say, for instance, you get this green light. The publisher loves it. Like, hooray, you did it. Like, now what? So from there, there's usually like a blueprint that's laid out by the lead producer. And they'll kind of cut the thing up into several different like project areas. A lot of them are self-explanatory kind of things, but I figured I would just go into it just to kind of detail what goes into there. But so they break the project down into several mini projects or milestones, and this usually takes a couple months just to get everything planned and all the resources in line. From there, there's an architecture kind of area, stage kind of thing. So that is creating a technical design that specifies tools and technology used. This is where the software planner and the project leader work together to fully realize the resources, technical requirements, and other technologies required for the project and produce a full tech spec. Yeah.
So this is the figuring out the engine you're gonna use to make the game.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Exactly.
Because I know, like, we'll use EA as an example again. All of their games are required to use the Snowdrop engine, Frostbite engine. Even though it's dated and I know it's like hard to use, every single EA game they require them to use the Frostbite engine. They cannot use like the Unreal engine, which is used all the time, or I don't know. There's a few others. Because I know even with this new Halo coming up, we're getting the
Infinity or
Slipspace or.
Oh yeah, Slipspace. I think.
Yeah, it's a new. They're building a new engine,
like a new engine.
Yeah, which the engine itself is millions of dollars to develop. So I understand like the engine is one of the hardest things to use, but luckily, like, a lot of times you make an engine, you will use it until it's just no longer feasible.
Well, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Breath of the Wild 1 and now 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Skyrim was built on the same one that Oblivion and Morrowind. Like, it's crazy.
Which caused problems for Fallout, I believe. Yeah, because of that. So, it's crazy.
But the engines themselves are more like a software than something specific for a game. What comes after the architecture is they'd say like, okay, we have the Frostbite engine, you have to use that. So the next kind of stage of that is tool building. So in this case, if it was Frostbite and I had to do Battlefield, it would be like, okay, what are the tools we need for that? So programmers and project leaders collaborate to create a number of tools, like a 3D graphics engine, a level builder, a unit builder, kinds of things.
I wanted to just express, like, if there's anyone listening out there that's an idiot like me, of for needing to use an engine. Like, imagine your boss, like, you're at work and your boss says, "Hey, I need you to make a really awesome portrait, but you need to use Excel." Like, that's kind of like what it is when you're forcing an engine on something. Like, sometimes a game just needs something different that's out there. But yeah, that was like the look on EA. So you're right. Getting the right engine can make the game great. And then the way they find a way to use this, because I think the Frostbite engine again was made for Battlefield, which is for first-person shooters, and BioWare has been using this to make their third-person games, which has been a huge hurdle for them. For those games, he started with what's the other Dragon Age Inquisition. That's what they started using the Frostbite engine on. So,
and the tool building, if Mario Maker is a prime example of that. That was what they used to make Mario games, and they're like, "This is really fun. We should make a game out of it." And that's kind of where that. Of course, granted, it's a much more polished version, I'm sure, of what people would have to use, but
that's still really awesome.
But that's exactly like the concept that it is. Like, the tool building is those tools need to be specially created in order to create more things in the game easier. Like, if that makes sense. So from there, it goes to several different pieces, but one of them is design. So this is where the game designer implements and modifies the game design to reflect the current vision of the game. So features, levels, ideas, characters, artwork, even like the target demographics for the game. These are all up for change, and all of the changes must be documented and communicated to the rest of the team. In the design phase, this can be kind of brutal. So if the game is, let's say, marketed towards older teens to adults, where it's a violent game, and then they're like, whoa, like, we need to target the kiddie market instead. The whole design team has to go back and change. Okay, there can't be blood here. This level is too scary. These characters are too blah blah blah. Like that kind of thing. You have to go all the way back to design and start from scratch on a lot of this stuff.
So it's like there's in there. It's like, oh, we're making Mario for kids. I thought this was like Mario the pimp, and he's out there to go get his money. What?
Exactly.
Kids gotta learn.
That's what, exactly.
Mario GTA.
Teach him right away.
One of these days.
I'm gonna put a cap in your ass.
Let me get these shrooms, bitch.
That was the original concept, actually.
Yeah, they didn't have the technology back then.
Right, yeah, no, they didn't have the shroom engine.
Well, you see, like when you ever ride on Yoshi, he's like hitting Yoshi in the back of the head to like try to go faster. You'd be like,
yeah.
Or like whenever he's like he like stick his tongue out to eat, he's like hitting him in the back of the head. He's like, "Fuck you, Yoshi."
Yeah, that's real fucked up. When I found that out, I was like, "Damn, you've been punching him this whole time." Messed up.
Some of the notable games that kind of stick out in my mind that have a unique design are like Minecraft, where it was never really done before, like a world builder in first person that you had kind of unlimited capability to build whatever you would like to. I mean, within the confines of that, but like it was just totally a radical design compared to what was at the time. So that was a cool departure.
That people have made in Minecraft were like never intended, and it probably blew a lot of people. Like when you're making like, oh shit, you can do that. This is a thing we put in this world, So
right.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many episodes of Minecraft I watched where people were playing games that they built inside of a game. It's pretty nuts. So.
Oh, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Another one that kind of stood out to me in design was Halo. I know that we're kind of biased towards that a little bit, but
excellent voice here.
Yeah.
But just to have like that kind of characterization and like the ideas behind the whole game. Obviously, the artwork was incredible for the time too, but that was really like a groundbreaking moment for I think a lot of FPS kind of genre games. Like, it was just like this is what it can be, and we kind of exploded from there. But
I think Halo, there's a few other games that may follow suit, but like Quake and Doom, like Unreal Tournament, like that was the first person shooter that we knew and loved. GoldenEye, you can see all that. Halo is like, oh, this isn't just a first person shooter where you're just shooting the man. Like you got smart aliens that are taking cover when you're shooting at them, or hopping in the Warthog, and then you have other Marines hopping in the Warthog with you to help shoot and attack. Like it was at the time, like even at the time, I still think about it like of just where games were at the time. Like this is just something so special.
Yeah, it was a trip.
Oh yeah, oh my god, it was just amazing. Some of the other ones that kind of stick out in my mind are like Undertale or Stardew Valley, a bunch of like Metroid, those kinds of games that they're all just totally revolutionary.
Do you guys ever watch like Game Theory guy, Pat, I think is his name? It's on
No.
YouTube.
Think so, yeah.
He met the Pope, and he gave the Pope Undertale. I wonder if he played it.
Maybe he did.
Played it, but like I wonder if the Pope played it. That'd be really interesting.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are just some of the notable designs that stuck out in my mind. And again, like this can be extremely rough in a group project situation, like a video game, where if they decide, this needs to be marketable to a different group of people, you have to go all the way back and do every design you made all over again. So, yikes. Next on the list there is programming. Programmers start to develop prototypes to test ideas, many of which may never make it into the final game. The programmers incorporate new features demanded by the game design and fix any bugs introduced during the development process. Even if an off-the-shelf game engine is used, a great deal of programming is required to customize almost every single game that we play today. Yeah. So this was like what you were mentioning with Anthem, where the programmers had to go all the way back because whatever CEO wanted to fly now. Like everyone wanted to fly the whole time. So now the programmers are like, whoa, okay, great. Like now we have to design verticality in our
how
maps
much
and
coding
everything.
just got
so.
scrapped? Like months and
Exactly.
months of coding was just like, well, I guess toss this out.
Well,
Right.
in some instances, it's so complicated, like with the GTA Hot Coffee mod, that it was harder to delete the code, supposedly. That's why they just left it in and hid it, because it just gets so complicated, and trying to go back, it wasn't going to happen. But
Oh my god!
Explain
Wait,
that.
what?
Was hot coffee?
So the hot coffee, the one where you go have hot coffee and you go fuck a girl, I can't remember which GTA it was. I think maybe 3, 4 or something.
Mhm.
It was a big old deal. They had to like pull copies of the game, and it was a controversial thing. But the reason it was in the game is because it just was so hard to take out, and somebody found it because it was buried deep with, you weren't supposed to be able to get to it, but they modded like the PC version and found it, and Rockstar got in deep shit for it. Of course, it turned out being great because it was awesome advertising. Everybody was talking about.
So it was a coding in there. Okay, you're still going to explain the controversy. It was coding in there that you'd go get coffee and then just fuck some girl.
Okay, so the whole like bit was called hot coffee, and then you go fuck a girl, but they took it out of the game, right?
But like you fuck girls in like all the GTA's. So this is like the first instance where it's like you weren't supposed to have sex with women.
I think they showed,
or just sex in general.
Yeah, like usually they kind of allude to it, but
it wasn't the car shaking. It was like you in a bedroom with the chick, like actually having sex. But they took it out for obvious reasons, because ratings and stuff like that. But they couldn't pull the code out because it was so complicated that they just buried it in there and didn't have it part of the game. But someone found it on the like PC version and like was able to bring it back, and then they got in trouble about it and had to pull copies and stuff.
I'm gonna have to look into this because this is blowing my mind. Because the second thing I'm thinking is like, okay, maybe there's coding in there that was like, oh, there's supposed to be a mission where you fuck some girl. It's like, okay, big deal. He tried to hide it. It wasn't in the game. But like, you'd still have to make the visuals for it. So like, maybe it's like, I'm thinking like you're telling me like you did some certain thing. You got a coffee, and then all of a sudden you're in a bedroom fucking some girl, and like the kids are playing. It's like, oh, what the hell? I feel like that would be, if they're trying to hide it. There's these. I
don't think they were trying to hide it.
Mushing each other, And
I think they just pulled it, and that was the fastest thing, was to just to bury it somewhere.
Like they could fix it, but it was going to take longer than when the game was supposed to release. I get what you're saying. I still am going to read into this because this is fun.
It was probably around 2005-ish, 6-ish, something like that, maybe.
That would have been 2002 was. If it was Grand Theft Auto 3, you're probably looking in the 90s, because I think San Andreas came out on the original Xbox. So
I'll look it up, but it was
holy crap, that's funny. I also wanted to highlight this too, because sometimes whenever I feel inspired, I try to get into programming every once in a while. Yeah. And it's pretty difficult, even to like create like a mini battleship game that's just like X's and lines, like it's rudimentary. It's difficult. It's like, it's not easy to do, and to do it with these levels of intricacies in games where it's like so many different influences and factors, and this is influencing this, like these interact together. What happens if these two are close to each other, or, collisions and stuff? It's just it's just mind-blowing. And then to have all of that scrapped and then start over, so it can lead to more frustration with the project kind of thing. Again, outstanding programming in my mind is like Minecraft. Just one person kind of doing all of that is just mind-blowing. It's really cool. So
I mean, the payoff was incredible. What's Curtis, I think you probably know this. I can't remember.
Notch.
Thank you.
And now he is like
1.4 bill.
He's got.
So now he's like disowned by his own game. They took his name out of like the little cutscenes thing where it says funny stuff. There's no more Notch things.
Weird.
He's just being such an asshole that cut him out.
I mean, when you have tons of money, I guess you just do whatever the fuck you feel like.
I don't think he necessarily cares either, by the sounds of it. I think he got his money. It's just like, I don't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
They can do it.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. So.
Yeah, so then next on the list was level creation. So there's different kinds of levels and different kinds of games. But when I was researching this, there was kind of a mind-blowing fact. With level creation, it's not uncommon for designers and artists to work on the first level of a game for over 12 months. So that's a year for one level. Newly introduced features may cause old levels to become obsolete, so the levels developed early on may be repeatedly developed and discarded. Because of the dynamic environment of game development, the designs of early levels may also change over time. So as level designers and artists use the tools for level building, they request features and changes to the in-house tools that allow for quicker and higher quality development, which allows them for the next levels to be quicker and easier to create after this. But the first level may take over a year to create, which is nuts as well.
Wild. And even when you think about it, you can kind of see the detail in a lot of games too. And games, similar to movies, at least for the story in a lot of games, kind of follow a similar formula where it starts off with a bang. You have to get intrigued. How many shows have you guys watched where you watch the first episode and you're just like, I don't like this show, and it might be
all of my Netflix.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So they got to get you at first, then you kind of go through a little bit of a lull, then you have a climax, and then you have to have some sort of resolution. I mean, it all kind of follows the same rule, but there's with the highs, there's going to be lows. It typically doesn't. It's hard to. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's hard to ramp the game up and just keep going up and up and up and up, and then end the game with a bang. That's
right.
Very hard to do. And I think I'm sure. Well, hey, tweet at us. I have it on here now, so you can't deny it. But if you're watching on YouTube at Words to the Nerds, it's written out. You can see it on there now. And if you just search at Words to the Nerds on Twitter, you can tweet at us and say, you tell me what's a game that ramped up and continually was just hit after hit after hit after hit, and then it ended fantastic. Tell me, I want to know because I want to play it. Sorry.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, I totally agree. Yeah. And it could be let's say the enemies change in a game. At first it's aliens and then it's zombies. Okay, the first couple levels you designed had spaceships landing, and now it makes no sense for zombies to come in. So back to the drawing board for all of that. It can be frustrating with that.
In Halo, they did it right. You have the Covenant for half the game, and then here come the Flood. I was halfway through it. That was wild.
That was one of the best levels too, man. The librarian in Halo 2.
Yeah.
And Guilty Spark 343.
Guilty Spark 343.
Oh man.
When you first meet, because you don't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
If you ever read the prequel books, it's kind of fascinating where 343 came from. So they talk about how he was created, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
I think there's some lore on that too, and the version, the 10-year anniversary version that came out on Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Some other cool ones that stood out to me were Metroid Prime kind of thing, or Metroid itself. It was really cool. I think what they did with the level design, where it was you start off with simple weapons and suits, and then now I got this grapple beam, so now I can get up to this next level and do that, and then I earn this, and now I can access that. I think that's a really cool progression kind of thing, level creation. So that was really cool, and the environments are varied. There's verticality, all different types of travel. It's really cool. It's a fun game. So.
Isn't what you're saying though, with the way they design Metroid and stuff? It was Metroid and Castlevania that had that aesthetic, so they call it Metroidvania. Mm-hmm. So thing that's a genre, Metroidvania game. It's okay, I know what this is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's really cool with that. So moving on from level creation, it's kind of tied hand in hand here, but art design. Artists work with the lead designer in order to bring the world, characters, equipment, enemies, biomes, levels, everything to life. This may also change dramatically during the development phase as different markets or demographics are targeted, visions change, limitations from technology. The engine doesn't do this; it only does this, that kind of thing. So you have to change the way the art works exactly on it. But a lot of this is where there's a lot of variation between games, and it really makes some of them stand out big time. Which there's a huge difference between Super Mario 64 and Need for Speed or Call of Duty. Like it's all different art styles that even within the same genre, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Doom, they're all different. Which it's pretty cool to think about that, but it also requires a lot of coordination. So imagine you're the lead designer and you're like, okay, I want this alien with 10 legs, he's got to be green and he's got spikes and he's got this and that. And the art designer comes back and he's like, I think this is what you mean. You're like, oh God, we only have a month left. Like, yeah, whatever, do it. It looks like crap, but just go with it.
And I would suggest, I'm biased because I like Zelda, but those books with the concept art and like the artist notes are really interesting to see, like where they started and the different variations and why the final one is the way it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's always so cool. Like the concept art for Monster Hunter World is awesome.
I bet so.
They show like all the origins. They kind of work with the same skeleton frameworks for some of them, but how they build it out and like change the style of it is really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's pretty awesome concept art out there that I've seen in like a bunch of games that I love, and some of it's just like, man, this is really cool. Put it in the game. Like it just
yes.
It's like, put this in the game.
Right.
Yeah, there's some cool bosses going back to like Twilight Princess from the concept art. I'm like, fuck. It's like this big four-legged spiderish looking thing. I'm like, damn, that would have been cool. Like fighting that as a boss battle.
Right. There's so many cool things like that. One thing that like kind of stood out in my mind for this too was sometimes the limitations of the system can kind of be used to an advantage. So in the art design for like Silent Hill, they were limited to what the engine could render at one time, so they decided to add a lot of fog to the game, which lent to like the overall art style of okay, this is dreary, foggy, it's dirty, it's dark, you can't see a lot, but it turned out to be really cool and really creepy. So, it's kind of cool the way things work like that.
I think just to add on top of that, Zelda Ocarina of Time was in a similar boat, and how they got around it, I can't remember exactly what they did, but it was pretty incredible on how they wrote the code to make the game bigger. But originally the game, because of the size of the cartridges and how much limited space they had, was going to be similar to what Mario 64 was, where you'd have the main castle as your hub, and then you'd go to these different worlds via jumping in a picture. Originally, Ocarina of Time was going to be something similar to that, where you'd go in a different world from Hyrule Temple, and then like you'd go down here and everything, and then you'd end up in this different biome. But then with whatever magic that they did there to fit it in, you're able to make it so it's not just Hyrule Castle. You have everything around it that you could go to, and you would have to go back and forth. And it was, this is really how
they think that Ganon's battle is a remnant of that because he uses the paintings to go in and out.
Yeah, exactly.
So they think that was just like an idea that from that they kept. But yeah, I think that was Miyamoto wanted to do that with.
I never realized that. That's so funny. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Because that game still is huge. I think if you were to play it now, I think like in one sitting, you're still looking at like 13 to 15 hours. That was a long game for 64 back in the day.
Yeah, I have it on 3DS. I played it when I was trapped in Florida.
On Switch, because I definitely want to play it again.
Yeah, they need to. I mean, I know they built it high enough resolution. Like they need to do both games.
Yeah.
Come on, Nintendo, for being cowards.
By the way, good news is Allie said she would get me a Switch for Christmas.
Hey,
yeah, part of the Switch Club. Woo!
So we'll get some Battle Crab action going.
Oh my god!
You know how to play some Battle Crab.
Battle Crab in.
That's your boy's game.
Yeah, that looks very.
So onto one of the coolest things that I like the most is the audio design. So sound effects voice acting, music, those kinds of things. That's kind of where I really enjoy a lot of that stuff.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the sound effects are created in unique ways, or they can be used like samples of different sounds, music, like pre-recorded things. They can use real sound effects, musical instruments, improvised instruments, which are always pretty cool, and various synthesizers and stuff like that. This is from the lead sound designer and their team. So some improvised instruments that I've seen that are pretty cool is like I forgot what I was trying to simulate, but it was like they rolled a wine bottle across sand on a sheet of tinfoil. So it kind of made like this strange, like staticky, like walking, crunching sound. It's really weird, but it turns out really cool. And they run it through like a couple synthesizers and stuff, and it's just like you would never ever guess. You're like, oh, that's someone walking on gravel, but it's actually like, like that kind of thing. So there's some funny things like that.
You know what that reminds me of? Monty Python, The Search for the Holy Grail, when they're using the coconuts, like coconuts, and they're going around, and that's what they're doing. That always cracked me up. But like after like watching that, I always assume like, oh, that's probably what they do when they're making these games.
Exactly. Yeah.
Coconut,
Well, yeah, and like, have you ever seen a Foley artist studio? It looks like a big playground with all these toys and shit. Because that's what they're using, all this weird crap to make noises. It's really
right. Cool. It's like, oh, if I bang this garbage can with a wet fish in a newspaper, like,
yeah,
it really sounds like an alien talking. Like,
it really would be like going to. Like, it's like toys for adults, so you got to ask them. It's like, oh, what does that do? Oh, what does that do? And then you see them make the sound, and then you're just sitting there in awe.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Oh my god, yeah. And then the music composed for games, some of them has just been epic. Like we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago with
last week with Mario.
The Halo soundtrack. Yeah,
Martin O'Donnell. Like
that, he's a legend already just from composing video game music. Like he worked with Paul McCartney. It definitely changes the entire feel of a game. Like if you played Halo with no music sound, it's not really Halo. Right. Or if you played Silent Hill without the soundtrack, it's just like a walking simulator. It's not really scary.
Exactly.
And I believe, is it Jaffe that did God of War, or that created? I don't remember the guy's name.
Yeah.
But anyways, he wanted like rock music or something for the soundtrack for God of War, but
they went the composer for God of War.
No, it was the guy that created the game, but he wanted like rock music. I think it's more
Cory
epic.
Barlog?
Was it? Say it again.
Cory Barlog?
Maybe. I can't remember.
I cannot say with 100% certainty that he made the first God of War, but he's definitely responsible for 3 and the last one. I imagine that he's with 2 and 1 as well.
It was the guy that created Twisted Metal, I believe, also.
Oh, shit.
But anyways, yeah, so for God of War, he wanted like it would have been really corny sounding rock, but they went with like, that really deep, epic sounding soundtrack, which really made the game, I think. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
There's nothing that just like instantly puts you in the mood like the music in a game. And then there's voice acting, which again, there's a huge world of voice actors to pick from. Even like the Critical Role podcast that I listen to for Dungeons and Dragons, it's all voice actors playing. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. They've worked in several projects themselves too. Like I know several of the cast have been involved in like the Uncharted series, the Shadow of War series, those kinds of things. Like they've been in everything. So you get voice acting from actual celebrities that everyone knows.
Nathan Fillion.
Exactly. Peter Dinklage.
Yeah. The Dinkbot 2000.
Yeah, it definitely was. I always appreciate a lot of the games because like a lot of these voice actors that started off in games have really made a name for themselves. Like who's it, Nolan North, and everything that he's done, because he's done I never played any of the Uncharted games, but the main guy in Uncharted, he's now the voice of the in Destiny as your ghost. He's going to be in the new. He's either Captain America or Iron Man. And
yeah, that's right.
in the new Avengers game, and then a bunch of other stuff. He's been in a ton of stuff. So.
Oh yeah, and a lot of them are just like iconic, where you can still hear, Cade's voice in your head, or Shaq's when he screams or something. You can hear all of that stuff. It's really cool.
Do y'all remember that game Gun? It was Xbox 360 era.
No,
I don't know if I did.
Well, it was a Western game, but Thomas Jane, who was, I don't know if you remember who that is.
Yeah,
he did the voice, but that was really memorable to me. And he also did the Punisher game, obviously, because he was a Punisher. But
2004 Punisher, I love that movie.
I like that movie a lot.
I really like that movie.
But yeah, it was around that same time frame because that's when he did it, and I was like, "Oh, I love this game way more now that I get to hear him talking the whole time." So
I'm gonna post a link for you guys, but there was this director guy made some YouTube videos. It was like 15-minute videos, maybe even less than that, but it was like reimagining certain things. Like one of them was like an R-rated Power Rangers, which was really cool. But another one he did was a follow-up with the Punisher, and he got Thomas Jane, and I think Ron Perlman he got in there too. But but he put together, and dude, it was just so well done. I'm gonna find these videos. I'm gonna put in there, but it's cool. I watched it and I was like, okay, now make this a full feature-length movie. It was so good. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys watched it, went around recently, but that if Bel Air was made today and someone made like a preview of what it would look like if they made like a 2019 Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and it was really cool. I was like, dude, I want to watch this. And everyone was like, yo, do you see them making this? Like, no, this guy just put this together. This isn't coming out. And everyone's like, damn it, I got suckered to this. But yeah, some of these are just so good.
Yeah.
Okay, we went off topic. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
So after that, with all of these moving pieces coming together, it finally comes down to testing, which that's rough in itself. I mean, you have to test every facet of the game, the difficulty, how intuitive is the controls, the gameplay itself, is it too hard, too easy, those kinds of things. And then bugs. Like, bugs are obviously going to be everywhere in the game. A lot of the time, this is where they get crunched for time, and it's very difficult to test everything in the amount of time that they're given. And there's also regression testing that sometimes they kind of cut out. So basically what happens is, like, as things are complete and playable throughout the production of the game, they'll test it, and then they'll say, okay, we're good. We don't need to test this part anymore. Only do the new stuff. Only test the new stuff. So when you do go back and test the old stuff that was cleared before, that's called regression testing. And what can happen sometimes is new code down the road can alter even just one line of code in the past, and it completely wrecks the whole thing. So a lot of games miss that, and that's where you get things like Anthem or all these game-breaking glitchy bugs. Like, they just never went back and were like, oh, does this feature still work with this new addition in or whatever? So
and the amount of work that they put into testing too, anyway, I think is pretty incredible, because I can't remember, like, if you have 1,000 developers that are playing this game, and they maybe put in 100 hours, maybe even 200 hours into this game of playing it while they're also making it, and then you put it out in the world where you have millions of people, and if they even play for 1 hour, one person is going to find something that's like that none of the developers saw. There's just it just needs to go out into the world. I mean, as complex as games are getting now, every game is going to ship with bugs. Your only goal should be to ship with as few as possible. But I think that's almost a standard now. In it used to be Easter eggs. Now it's just like, no, this game is going to have bugs. We'll find it and we'll fix it down the road. That's why kind of games has been a thing.
It's funny you say that, because I believe there was a Sonic game where there was a mess up past, they had already certified it and made cartridges, but they made it in the manual like, this is a thing that could happen, like, yay, So, well, and also, like, back in the NES days, they had to record on VHS. They had to, like, timestamp when the error code happened. They had to send the tape back to the developers. So It was pretty rough back then.
Wow.
At least, you have capture cards and stuff.
Oh my god. Jesus.
Yeah.
Could you
I didn't even think of that.
One of the things that someone brought it up, I can't remember who, but was really interesting. Whenever they would send out like a game that was to be play tested, in order to monitor to make sure that this person's not going to leak the footage out there, he never said it, but one of the things he did is the way, like, do you remember the Xbox 360 background? You kind of had like the rings or whatever that would kind of vibrate or do something in the background. Well, the way that those would move was unique to each person that got a game, so they'd be able to tell who they sent it out to and who leaked it. Which I thought I was like, dude, you conniving motherfuckers. That's
oh my god.
But
that's genius.
That was so smart.
That's crazy. That's smart as shit. Yeah, so it's not unusual for the staff for testing to double, triple, or even quadruple as the project ends nearing dates. Nears ending dates. I'm sorry. Yeah. So like right before they go gold, to like quadruple your staff and try to control all of that from a project manager standpoint is like, it's crazy.
I can imagine.
But yeah, so after that, they pretty much go gold. It's good to go. Print the CDs, release the keys. Sometimes they have alpha and beta tests, which lately now beta tests are now just like a glorified demo beforehand. Things are already worked out for the most part. So and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what goes into making a game. Which, sorry for the slog.
No,
but
let me count this real quick. I mean, you're looking at basically like 12 teams of different people that are putting stuff together and trying to make a complete game. And these teams can vary from probably 10 people being like the smallest in these big AAA studios to probably like 100 people for like the biggest. And to try and like coordinate and make sure that you're all on the same page, like no wonder these games take as long as they do.
Oh yeah,
just for information. I mean, it could be a week for information to get down to all the teams when you try and change something up or make something new. It's just so big.
And like, I can't even imagine like the morale killers that it must be. Like, I get pissed when I have to delete a spreadsheet that I worked on for a week. Yeah. Imagine of a level that you worked on for a year, you have to go back and delete it. It's like
imagine working on something for like 6 months and then like really burning out. Like, hey, look, I'm sorry, but I have to go on vacation or something. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose my mind. They leave for like not even a week because that'd be too long and for in the development industry. But they're gone for 3 days, come back, and then all your work ended up getting scrapped. Hey, we're gonna go a different direction. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
And that's what it's like all the time for every game. Like,
or hey, you don't have a job now because
like oops,
we're a volatile industry,
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of going, and part of it is a lot of the developers are doing their job. It's not real, like a lot of times it's not the developers out here. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna go. I think this will work. I'm gonna go down this wild path and then see what comes of it. It's like, no, they're doing their job. They're being told what to do. They do that, and then things change. And that's with any industry. Things will change. You might be doing something. This isn't gonna work. They change it. You got to scrap it. You got to, go back to doing what you're doing, or something that they want you to do. So you, God dang it! I just lost my train of thought.
You're saying it gets scrapped?
Yeah. I was gonna come around full circle and make a point. Damn it.
Well, I think the lesson I wanted to, if I inspire anything out of this, was just kind of like, there's a ton of people working on this, and sometimes things get crossed up and changed and revised multiple times. So just kind of put that in perspective when you bash a game like I hate Anthem too, but it's like, you know.
Or the publisher is
That
really
was-
heavy-handed.
And that's where
Right.
I remember now where I was going with that. But like a game like Anthem, like there wasn't really any
Direction.
Thank you. There wasn't any direction for them to go. Like they were all over the place. So they like were just developing things, and it didn't really like they had to basically make a game in 18 months because they just weren't following direction. It's like now it's like, hey, do this. Whereas with God of War, with Cory Barlog, a lot of it's like this was his vision, or you could even use Kojima as well. Like they have a game, this is their vision, like this is what I see it, down to everything that needs to be in it, the audio, what it's going to look like. And so whenever your team's there, he'll tell you need to do this, and then he's like, hey, is this what you mean? It's either yes, that's what I want, or no, dude, that's not it. I mean, it's like it sucks you did it, but at least you know, and then you can go back to drawing boards and do it. And so it's like a lot of times you just need that one figurehead there that says yes, no, whatever. Not just kind of like we're all spread out doing our things. I mean, there has to be a direction, and everyone has to be on the same page. And so if you don't like it, and if he doesn't like it, and this is his game, he needs to put the foot down. Don't sugarcoat it. Be like, maybe we can make it work. It's either yes or no.
Right.
And
right.
Sometimes that's got to be.
Mm-hmm.
I feel you on that. But thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No, I mean it's interesting. I think all the three of us are familiar enough with like the gaming industry that we know that there's a bunch of work that goes behind the scenes. But a lot of people, you're right, aren't. A lot of people just, oh, this game sucks. But it's like, dude, you had thousands of people work on that game. It's just like it's hard to just sit there and like just bash them when you had thousands of people that worked their ass off for 5 years.
Exactly.
See, that's why I want to do concept art, because nobody's talking shit about the concept art.
That is true. That is very true.
Oh man.
So yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah, and there's so many stories. Destiny being one of them, Anthem being another. Of like things that have just gone wrong in development of the game, and it shows. Like there was real problems with Destiny when it first launched. Even though I loved it, a lot of people were like, "This isn't the game that I thought it was going to be." And then Anthem is just, sorry Anthem, but you're just the one we have to pick on for 2019.
You did this.
No one else is really done this. I don't think until they do a worse. I mean, it's. And it sucks for BioWare too, because it's Anthem, and then it was Mass Effect Andromeda before that. It's just like, God, it's like, can these guys get a break? So
yeah, I almost wish Mass Effect did good. They didn't.
Me too.
They didn't have those F-ups.
They needed that win.
Yeah,
but again,
I really like.
They're restricted with that engine. Like what are they to do?
That is very true. Honestly, EA, that's just such a dumb rule on EA. Just pay the licensing out. Like, let them work on other stuff. They make like even crazy like the FIFA games are made on the Frostbite engine. It's like
right.
God, like either make a new engine or just let them use something else.
Right.
So that's weird. True.
Killer.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for me.
Yeah, and it's actually. Let me look where we're at. We definitely put some time into this, so I don't want to like leave it just on that. But have you guys? Are you gonna be playing some Destiny on PC?
Oh hell yeah!
I don't know. I'd have to like get my PC going, but yeah. It sounds intriguing. So.
I definitely did the cross save thing. Like once it went live, I thought when they said it was postponed, I was like, oh God, please no! Someone
it's not happening.
Of like the
I think that was Darklight did that. Yeah,
that had me dying. It was like what is it? The plant.
Like stay psyched.
Mario. It just kept getting worse.
Yeah, Piranha Plant or PD.
I don't know, but I thought it was gonna be really long, but it ended up being just a few hours, after the fact, and then you're able to go through it. So, yeah, while I am putting the final touches on this together and editing, I will be on that tonight.
Nice.
Dang it. I've been playing Remnant, which is sick. It's actually a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Was that you that hopped in our group last night? And you were like, yo, what's up? And you're like, oh, gotta go.
Me?
Yeah.
If I did, I didn't mean to.
Oh.
I don't think I did.
Then you would know.
On Discord or what?
Yeah. Me and my brother were in Discord together.
Oh,
and we were
no, it wasn't me.
We were playing co-op, and someone like popped in, and they were like, "Yo!" And we were like screaming at each other, like, "Yo, you gotta do this! You gotta do this!" And he's like, "All right, gotta go."
I don't know who did that.
I thought it was you, bro. That's why I messaged you.
No, it wasn't me because I was on, but I was fixing up my PC because I had another. I'd freaking forgot about it too. I'd bought it like 2 months ago because I think Kirsten and I were talking about it. I got like another of those NVMe solid state drives, and I put it in my drawer. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna put it in my computer at some point, and I didn't. So I was like, oh yeah, I was gonna put all my games on this, and so I did that, and I like formatted it, and I moved all my games to be specifically on this hard drive. But I got Destiny on there, like up and running, and I played it again a little bit, and whew,
makes a big difference.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes like the game like loads faster than the graphics can render. Like
it breaks it on the Xbox One.
Really?
Like strikes. I will sit at a blank screen for like a good 30 seconds sometimes, waiting for the other players to get in.
Holy crap!
I was like choosing a destination to go, and like it was so fast. Like it's like it zooms back of like usually your ship's flying forward, and then like breaks away, and then it shows your ship flying. Basically, like my ship was just there stationary, and then it just zoomed back real far, and then the camera turned, and then it started going forward, and then like 2 seconds later, here goes my ship catching up to the screen.
Dude, I love when if you ever watch some of the ships in game while you're doing like an event or something or an activity,
well, like
it
on the
fucks
tower
up. It's just like boom, it goes real fast out.
Oh man,
it's really fun.
That's great. Shit. Definitely excited to check this out. And yeah, again, if you guys stayed here, listen to this, we appreciate you. Let us know what you think. You know, we want to, like, even if you got to criticize us on something, we do this because we enjoy it. But we also, some of the changes that we've made on like the side we do this podcast, like where now it's a little bit more in depth and we go into like a story in the industry and not just kind of what's in the news on the day to day. We think that this will suit like what's out there already as far as podcasts go. We think this will be a little bit more, you know, let's educate ourselves a little bit on the making of video games instead of just playing it. We think that that's a good route to go. But if you guys just like want to hear us like bullshit and pick our nose for an hour, you know, we'll do that occasionally too. So
we can do that.
We definitely.
I got all my nose picking done right before.
Yeah,
I actually did pick my nose like on stream today.
It's actually kind of hard to pick my nose though, because it's like God just made this blurry blob piece of shit when he made me because he dozed off, and we're all just. Hey, it's a callback from earlier when I was talking about that 5-star review. You know, come on, get with it, Sean. No,
I'm with you.
But yeah, check us out. Tweet at us at Worst of the Nerds, especially if you have any like questions at us. Actually, as a matter of fact, here's something fun for you guys. Go ahead and tweet us at Worst of the Nerds. If you want us, like we have the same, you know, rigmarole. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wordness and Nerdness podcast. If you have something that you think is better, like, hey, why don't you say this? Well, give us a catchphrase, you know? Like, if you want us to start off with a different catchphrase, we'll do it. Tweet at us and everything. And we'll say thanks to so-and-so for letting us know. And
yeah,
that is the catchphrase of the day. So
I'm down for that.
Word.
Anything. I like that. Honestly, just anything. Just send us anything. We're just sad boys over here.
Anyway. I miss Sam.
I miss Sam too.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's fighting the good fight. You know, these loot boxes. They're not
do what you gotta do.
I say more loot boxes, lower drop rates. I mean, that's what he's all about, right?
Like all of that.
Exactly.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Wordness to the Nerdness podcast. Thank you all for listening, and catch us again here next Thursday. Until then, stay nerdy, friends.
Peace.
Laters.